and give him a call back. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking here. You can't see me because I think it's okay. I'm pretty sure it's okay on my end, if I'm not mistaken. I'll do the same though. I'll X out a couple of my extra things here. I don't think it's on my end though. I don't think. All right, let's give him a call. I just closed out some of my stuff. We'll give him a call back, see if we could rock. And PFG, good comms on the audio. I think I should have fixed the echo. I think we're gonna be good.
All right, let's try it one more time. Let me know.
Hell yeah.
So I'll look better.
That is looking like we might have fixed it. Hasn't dropped. Yeah, it's just I think it's good to go, brother. I think we're gonna be just fine as long as your audio is good money. This can factor into your face cam versus no face cam debate a little bit later in the conversation.
I got a lot of thoughts on it.
Eric, man, I'm ready to rock if you're ready to go, brother.
Hell yeah, let's get it, man. I got your stream paused right now just because I don't know if that might have been for some reason slowing it down. So
I mean, potentially. These ones are tough because like I can't share the camera that I'm using to the Discord call since Slobs is using it. So it's like sometimes people feel like they're not talking to anybody. So I just tell them like pull up my stream, mute it, and like then it's almost like we're talking to each other, just 30 seconds separated is all. But
yeah,
Eric,
I just paused it. Just hopefully that helps a little. But yeah, what you got for me?
Let's get it, baby. Come on, man. It is a pleasure and an honor to present to y'all here live on twitch.tv/Fendler. I got the legend, Eric Rayweather, with us today to continue season 2 of Fen Talks. And we're really staying on pace with some of the biggest, most recognizable names in Madden of the last few years. I had the treat of sitting down with Prob yesterday. We got, yourself here today, another absolute superstar. We're going to catch up with Toke tomorrow, and I'm so excited to have you, bro. It's an absolute honor. I always like to lead off these interviews by letting you know that, I know that I'm just another internet stranger to a lot of you guys that loves Madden and wants to do a lot of the same things that you've done and been so successful with. And even the fact that, you're willing to hit me back, much less accept the invitation to come on the show and spend a little bit of time with us. I think it's really a testament to all your guys' character and, your want to see the community thrive. So first and foremost, bro, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here, for making the time. What's good, man? Happy Thursday. How you feeling?
Feeling good. I got a lot of stuff coming up this weekend, so I was just scrambling to get things done. But that's one thing. Just going back to what you just said, I always liked about the Madden community. I feel like no one's too big, no one's too small. Everyone's just cool. Even when I was like just starting out, there were like big guys that were open to doing stuff with me, and I always thought that was cool, because a lot of other communities, it's hard to, work with other people when you're starting out. And even some people, you could be like kind of in the middle, and sometimes like the really big, like the massive guys, millions and millions, they don't want to like talk to nobody. But I feel like in Madden, it's never been that way. I feel like everybody is pretty cool. It's a pretty tight knit kind of group. The hardcore, the guys like on Twitch and then they have Twitter. Like we're all like pretty in touch with each other. So I always thought that was cool.
I've noticed a lot of the same, and I mean, it keeps being proven to me over and over again, and I'm, looking forward to, getting further into a few of the things you just said, who you were watching initially, some of your inspirations, but kind of the underlying point of these Fen Talks, of this interview series, is to get, I keep using the phrase, I think it's the right phrase for it, is to get at your origin story. Like a lot of you guys we've seen so much of your content. We've seen you as a YouTuber. We've seen the videos over the years, and you get an idea of who you think somebody might be, but it's not often that we get occasion to talk about some of the path that you've walked to arrive at this platform that you have now, which is just shy of 500,000 people subscribe to you on YouTube. It's absolutely miraculous. So I am excited to have you. I want to hear a little bit about the background, and I like to start these talks kind of like almost chronologically, right? Like we tell a little bit of the story. So I'd love to ask you, bro. I mean, if we could take it really from the beginning, where did you grow up? What was the house like? And when did video games, just kind of as a more general practice, come into your life? Tell me about early Eric Rayweather.
Oh yeah, so South Louisiana, where I grew up, been my whole life. Okay. Video games for me, back Super Nintendo is like my earliest memory. So like the school that I went to, elementary school, it was like a like I guess like parents could drop you off like an hour before school started. Like, you know, they had to go to work, so like you could drop the kids off at elementary school earlier, and there was like they would watch all the kids because, you know, some parents have to go to work or whatever. So
yeah,
school might not start till 9. They got to be at work at 8. So it was like, I think it was called like before care or something like that at school. And they had a Super Nintendo there, and that's all we would do is just kind of play Super Nintendo before school. And then the exact same thing after school. You know, school would get out maybe 3:30. Parents don't get off till 5, so you would go to that same thing after school for like an hour or two till your parents picked you up. And we would just play the main like 3 games we played were, of course, we had the Mario games, but we would play NBA Jam, and we would play like Tecmo Super Bowl, and that was like the first start. Like, that was my favorite football game until Madden. Till I got into Madden, which was probably like when I was maybe like 9 or 10. So I would say like Madden 99 was kind of like the first one, but that's where it really started, at Super Nintendo at school, before school, after school, and we would just sit there and just play for hours. That's, you know, all we would do.
Bro, that brought back memories. I forgot I had. Our version of it was called like Keep. The same thing. Like, Pops would be working a little bit after school, so we would go. Man, I wish we had a Super Nintendo. We would go down to the gym, and I was pretty overweight at the time, but your boy was just sweating, shooting basketballs after school for a little bit. But we had the very same program, Tecmo Bowl. So were you an early Bo Jackson adapter, an early Bo Jackson user way back then?
See, I don't remember those specifics of it. I just remember playing the game. I don't remember like teams. We were just like always like that was, see, like when we were young. Like, I mean, I'm talking like 6, 7. Like, I don't even think we understood like, you know, the meta. Like, we were just picking teams and just playing. And I think if I remember, Tecmo Bowl, like the object of it was kind of like there was like 8 plays on offense, defense. You picked a play, they picked a play, and if the plays, you know, didn't match up right, then you would get yards. And if the play did match up right, then they would like sack you or get an interception or something like that. So it wasn't, I don't really remember any strategy in it. I just remember we were just kids just picking plays. NBA Jam, I remember that a little bit more. Like, people would pick the good teams or whatever, but that was really it. And we didn't, they wouldn't let us play like I would have preferred, honestly, playing like in the gym, but they wouldn't let us do that like after school. We'd just be in this big cafeteria. Just, you could either do your homework or you could play on the video games, and so we just always play the video games. But we had a gym like right next door, but they would never let us go. It's like if it wasn't gym class, you just like couldn't go in there, and we would have probably all preferred to do that. Like, you know, we like playing basketball and stuff, but
yeah, it's for the best that I didn't have any video games back then. It's probably just about the only athletic activity I got as a young gun. It's like the Tecmo Bowl matchups. It's like the early versions of like weak boxing. You know what I mean? Like, just picking the right matchup depending on the defense, keeping your fingers crossed, and seeing what you can make happen. So early video games, you know, part of like kind of like almost like your school day, really. So was this like a daily thing for you then? Spending a couple hours before, a couple hours after, like pretty much every day.
Every day. That's really all we did. I think after school, I think you might have had to work on your homework before you could get on it.
Right.
You know, we would just kind of like, you know, rush through it, not do it all, and then we're trying to get on the game. But yeah, it was literally every day. And then I eventually got one at home, like for Christmas one year, and I was just like, I want the game they got at school, you know.
Yeah.
And my grandma got the wrong game. I think she had got like Troy Aikman football. I was like, no, this isn't the one. And I didn't know the name. I didn't know the name of it at the time. I just knew it was the football game. I didn't know the exact name.
Right.
And so it took me a while to like actually find out what it was called. And then I got it. And then that's where it started. And then one day my dad brought home a PlayStation. Just one day, like the original PlayStation. And then then it just went up to the next level, because then, you know, the games are looking more realistic. And the PlayStation 2 is really where, like, that's where the Madden, like, started hardcore. I got that on a Christmas, and that was it. I was locked in from...
So PS2 would have been...
It was Madden... The one I got on Christmas, it was... I got the PS2, and I got Madden 2002.
2002.
But I had played some of the earlier ones. Like, I would, like on the original PlayStation, I would rent them back when they had like Blockbuster and stuff. You go rent games.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
dude, that in and of itself, man. Did you have like a local like video store that you would go down for your video game rentals? That's a classic experience that kids are just not gonna have.
That was, man, nothing nothing matches like the video store. Everything's just so easy to get now, because like you would go to like Blockbuster or whatever, and a lot of times they wouldn't have Madden because it was a popular game, or they wouldn't have NBA Live. And this is even like 2K really wasn't as popular at this time. I mean, they were just on the Dreamcast, I think. So like not a lot of people had Dreamcast. So Madden was like the popular game, and they had like game day too. So sometimes you'd have to like settle for game day, which wasn't really bad. It was just you had to like sometimes settle, because I remember I'd go there days at a time and they'd just all be rented out. So it was kind of lucky to even get one, you know. So when you got it for the few days, you would just play it like nonstop. Like,
yeah, I remember trying to like coordinate with the owner of the shop. Like, all right, when do you think like X game is gonna be due back? Well, you're supposed to bring it back here. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be here in the afternoon. Like, just hang on through it for me. Don't let Jimmy down the street. Cop a new one here. So PS2, Madden 02 is like now Madden is like kind of entering the fray for you a little bit. Had been a football gamer beforehand. Did you dabble in like any athletics as a kid? Did you play football yourself? Was that part of why you were loving football games, or were you more of a gamer?
I played park ball like 1 year.
Okay.
I was always a little more on the smaller side.
Sure.
I guess technically still am, but like, so I was always like, I would say like probably, you know, significantly smaller than the other kids in my age group. So like it was just kind of harder, because like at that time I hadn't hit like a growth spurt or nothing yet, because you're like, you know, 8, 9 years old. Usually you hit that when you get like high school. Yeah. And even when I hit that in high school, like I'm still like on a shorter, you know, side of things. But like, so it was a little harder for me just because you know, it's hard to compete when a lot of people are like twice your size. So, but I played 1 year. It's like when you're that little and that young, it's like it really wasn't even that fun. Basketball, same thing. Like I played basketball a couple years, but again, it's just like when you're on the shorter end, it's kind of like you know, it doesn't matter. Like I was good for my size, but not compared to the other people my size, because they just had that like advantage. Baseball is probably the thing I could have, you know, been the best at, but I played that for a year. I didn't care for it. Like baseball just didn't interest me that much. It was always football and basketball.
And I gotta imagine part of the football love, you know, from everything I know about you, and I would love to hear more, is your Saints fandom.
Oh yeah, I'm embarrassing when it comes.
I mean,
to
huge. I'm seeing it, bro. I'm seeing the helmet. Okay, the profile picture is all set to go. When did it start? What do you think is your? Well, 2 questions. When did it, like, as a kid? I guess probably where you grew up, and what's your favorite Saints team of all time?
Yes, I don't remember when I started following the Saints specifically. It was probably about like, it's like when I was old enough to understand that like, okay, this is my home team.
Yeah.
Like, so I was probably like 9, 10. Because I remember before that, so like when I was like, you know, didn't really know as much, when I was maybe like 6, 7, I liked the Cowboys. And I think that was just like, because everybody, like when you're a kid, that's just what people like, the Cowboys.
America's team, right?
Right, if it was like, you know, back when they might have had like Emmitt Smith, I think, Troy Aikman. Like, and I had, like, my mom would get me their jerseys and stuff.
Nice.
And then it switched for a year to like the Broncos, like the Terrell Davis, John Elway Broncos. Oh man, like for like those 2 years where they went to the Super Bowl, and again, I'm like probably 8 years old, 7, 8. So not really being I don't really know what a bandwagon is. I'm just like, oh, this team's cool. I love Terrell Davis. Like he's just amazing. So then once I was maybe like 9, 10, I started to like I knew we had a team, but like the team was always so bad that like, you know, people were just like, man, the Saints are no one was even that interested. I mean, you had like the diehards that were like always like there, but it was just we weren't on TV a whole lot, because like this was before like we couldn't even like sell out games, so we wouldn't even be on TV. So I was just seeing what was on TV. Once I was like 9, 10, and I started to kind of figure out like, oh, like you're supposed to really root for your home team, you know. Once I realized that, from that point on, it was just Saints forever, like diehard, and it's never turned back.
That's a beautiful thing.
I was there, you know, when we, not like actually there, but I mean, like I was watching, like, and I was invested when we won our first playoff game, which I think that was in 2000, beat the Rams. And I mean, this is like, we're already a franchise for 30, 40 years or whatever. First playoff win, led by Aaron Brooks.
Huge.
So that's a story.
I remember Aaron Brooks. He was fun to play with in the games too. He had a little bit of mobility.
He had an arm, dude. I always thought, even to this day, I thought he could have really been a lot better. He couldn't put it all together. But man, he had a little mobility. He had an arm, and at that time, the little bit of mobility he had was still like a lot at that time, because other than like Vic, you know, there weren't too many people running around crazy like that. So I mean, that's, that was like my first big memory is when they finally got that one. Favorite Saints team is tough.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think it's the Super Bowl team. I mean, it's one of my favorite teams, but really, I really liked the 2018 team, the no call year. That was probably my favorite team. I just liked the attitude of the team. I just liked all the players we have, and a lot of those guys are still here. It was towards the end for Breeze. That was the year Michael Thomas broke the record. I think that was the year he broke the record.
I think it was.
Kamara,
bittersweet feelings on Breeze.
Lattimore.
Have you been missing him?
I mean, not really. It was time. He was declining, so it was bittersweet. Like when I knew it was the last game, that last playoff game, like that day was like, yeah, that sucked because you just knew like, damn, it's over. But like we knew it was coming, so it wasn't that bad. Like Sean Payton was worse because like no one really saw that coming at all.
I remember watching Breeze. I remember when Breeze walked off the field. Like just watching him for a second, he looked back and looked at the stadium, and you probably remember almost the exact same clip that I'm talking about. Yep. And it was just like nobody was really sure if that was going to be it for him. But as he was trotting off and he like just took one more look, I was like, yeah, no, that's going to be it for him, I think. Yeah,
that's when it set in. You were like, damn.
Yeah,
it's it. It's over. I mean, I was ready to move on just from like a talent standpoint, just because he was so really good, but in the playoffs,
right?
When you can't really throw the ball, you can't really press the ball, push it downfield. That's why we would struggle every year. We do great in the regular season, but you get to the playoffs, teams buckle down more in the playoffs, and like they know what it is. They're like, okay, if he beats us going deep, we'll live with it because the odds are he ain't even gonna go deep because he can't.
Right.
And
that's why get there.
It was so hard to do anything. But in the regular season, I mean, you're playing bad teams. You're playing teams that aren't. Like, I don't care what anybody says in any sport. Like, when you get to the postseason, like, they lock it, especially on defense, like, they lock in differently. They approach it differently, So
yeah, for sure.
And it showed every year. That's why we would struggle.
Yeah, you might not be able to get away with dotting down the field for, slants and 10-yard hitches the whole way and win the game about it.
Yeah, a good team and this isn't going to let you do that. So that's why the no-call year hurt, because it was like, I feel like that should have been the year. We probably could have won. I mean, who knows if we would have beat the Patriots? A lot of people feel like we would have, but who knows? Because it's still the Patriots. Yeah. But if we could have won that year, then he probably would have rode out that year and been good. But he kind of forced it the last 2 years because I think we all knew like the team was still good. The Super Bowl window was there,
right?
And so we kept pressing it, but then his arm was getting weaker and weaker. Then he started getting injured, which is something he didn't really have him before. He got injured both of those last years, so he wasn't ever like fully himself, and he shouldn't have been still playing that long. 2018, I think, would have been the perfect way to cap it off. But when it ended the way it did, it was like, man, we got to come back and keep trying because we're bringing the whole team back pretty much. Like, we were right there. So
they were kind of caught in like win now mode, but like you wonder if Breeze was like the guy that was going to be able to do it. That sounds reasonable. I'm looking at your background, and right above the Saints helmet, you must be a sneakerhead there too, huh?
Yeah, I got a few things. That's just the ones I kind of like the most. I got boxes full of stuff. Oh, that's like that's like an early thing for me. Like as soon as I got a job when I was like 14, that's why I got a job because I was like I want to just buy more shoes because like your parents would be like, look, you got your school shoes and then you got your other pair of shoes and like I'm not buying you more shoes until like next school year. Like I'm not just gonna keep spending money on shoes. You don't need 10 pairs of shoes, but when you're a sneakerhead, you just want them. So that's why I got a job when I was 14. Like most people get jobs when they're like 16, 17 maybe, but I as early as I could just because I was like I want my own money so I could just buy shoes. So I buy my Iversons and stuff in high school and stuff like that. But yeah, so now I can just buy them whenever I want. So I haven't bought any in a while though. I've kind of took a break.
now you do not have a shoe budget anymore, I suppose. No, so that's really. I feel like that brings us to a pretty good spot in your story here. So now we're starting to see the mindset, right, and like kind of the grind develop now. So 14 years old, you wanted to have a couple extra bucks for yourself, and you start working right off the rip. What did you do for your first job at 14?
Grocery store. They bag groceries, put in push carts, and I didn't mind it. It was actually kind of fun. I kind of liked it.
A little cart corral guy.
Yeah, I like doing that more because it was kind of like you just kind of was on your own terms when you did that. Like when you was inside working, as long as there's customers, you got stuff to do. But when you was kind of doing the carts, you just only had to do the carts when you needed to do them, and then you kind of just like chill a little bit. So I used to like doing that because it had a little freedom to it.
So so it sounds like from a pretty early age, like, I mean, it's a legit hustle, but you know, you're kind of a hustler right off the rip here. Did you have any, did you have any, you know, any like side hustles or things that you were doing for a little bit of bread before we get to now, you know, the YouTube channel and really kind of now you're going to start monetizing Madden? Like, was there anything in between you know, working as a teenager and getting this thing going?
Yeah, I did a lot of little things. Like I would, excuse me. I would sell stuff on eBay, like but it would usually be like, so I'd buy, like I said, I'll buy stuff like when I was, you know, when you're a kid, you didn't really have bills other than like a cell phone bill. This is before I even have like a car, you know, so I don't have to worry about gas and insurance. So it was basically I'd just buy clothes and shoes, like that's just all I did, and food. You know, if I went to the mall with my friends, that was like all I spent money on. So, you know, after I like wear some stuff for a while, I would usually keep everything in like pretty good condition, like new. I would always clean my shoes after I wore them and stuff like that. So then I'd just sell them when I was kind of like, all right, I'm over them. And then I'd sell them and then take that money and go buy new stuff. So it was never a point where I was just buying. I was like, all right, like once I hit a certain point, I'm like, okay, if I want some new stuff, I'm going to send something else out. So I might get half my money back on that, put that towards the new stuff. So I would always do that. I sold a lot of stuff on eBay from like when I was a teenager. That was like my little side hustle. Like if I needed a little extra money, if there's something specific I wanted, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get rid of some of these shoes and just sell them, because a lot of them, you know, like certain shoes, like they'll still hold value, you know, even used. Sometimes they're even worth more than retail, depending on like which ones they are. Like Jordans, you know, a used pair of Jordans sometimes will go for more than the actual retail price just because you can't get them.
Right.
So that's I would do that. You know, then I started working at a shoe store when I was in high school, which was like perfect because then I was getting a discount. So then I was really buying a lot. I was getting them like 40% off. So that was like dream job. And
wow.
And yeah. And then I had like a little side hustle. I started like when I was probably like 20, 21. I started like a little music blog, like back when those were popular before streaming. Me and my buddy, and and I didn't work for a while. Like I stopped going to school and just did that full time because it was actually making like decent money. And then the
music blog was. How were you making your money on the music blog? Advertising?
Yeah, like Google Ads. Same. It's like kind of the same as YouTube AdSense, but
cool. I
mean, YouTube you definitely make way more on YouTube because you just get more views. I think really it's easier to get views on YouTube. Like to a blog, it was like a lot of like SEO. You know, you got to like get in the search engine. That takes a while. And once I learned that. Like once I learned how to get things where like, oh, if you search for this song or this artist, like this will pop up. But we started getting a lot of views that way. But then they would constantly like change that algorithm. So then like after a few years, it wasn't working as good. But for a couple of years, like it was making pretty good money. And we eventually sold it because it was starting to decline and like things were starting to slowly get to streaming. So this is like probably 2014 or 2015 we sold it. Not for much at that time because it wasn't worth as much after a while. But it was just like, it was something we did and like we ate off that for like maybe like 3-4 years. And then I went back and got a regular job again, just started kind of grinding, had 2 jobs. And then YouTube was like going to be the next side hustle. I was like, I could probably do this on the side, like make a few $100 extra bucks a month. Like, honestly, I was just thinking like, I was like, man, I like to spend a lot of money on like fast food and stuff. And I'm like, man, this adds up quick. I'm like, maybe my YouTube channel could just be like my fast food money, you know, just a little extra side money. And that's what it started as. I didn't think it would be a career. I just thought it was going to be a side hustle. And then it turned into this.
Yeah, that's one hell of a side hustle. So it wasn't necessarily, my next question was going to be like kind of if you took the music blog like right into YouTube, but it sounds like not really. It sounds like you kind of like, you know, went back to, you know, the average, you know, just a job, right? You had a job and you were working. You're like, all right, so you know, I got some of this experience. I've been deciphering some of these algorithms. Like, you know, you know a couple little things about how this might look. And so you mentioned around 2014. So what was that? Madden like 25? Was that the Barry Sanders cover one?
Oh, you're talking about when I started YouTube?
Yeah, because I figured this leaves us off right around that 2014 spot. And yeah, I'm curious like what that looked like when you first picked up YouTube a little more seriously.
So, you know, funny story. We can get in this in a minute. I actually had a Madden channel like back in like 2007, but we'll get to that in a second. That was
cool.
That was kind of like more of an accident than on purpose. But so I guess I kind of always lived my life like just I would jump from thing to thing. Like I didn't go to college very long. I just realized like, all right, it's not for me. Don't like it. I never knew what I wanted to be. Like I never had a thing, you know. So I was just in college, kind of just trying it out. Like, you know, fresh out of high school, what everybody does. Like, you know, there's a lot of basic classes you got to take anyway. So I was like, all right, you know, I'll figure it out while I'm there and just kind of get the experience. But pretty quickly I learned, I'm like, I'm just not a school person. This wasn't for me. So that's when I went to the shoe store full time, and at that point it was like pretty good money, you know. Not now it wouldn't be, but at that point, young, didn't have a lot of bills. I was like, all right, this works, and I would just jump from thing to thing. I just like tried a lot of things. I was like, let me try this, let me try that. So the blog was like the first thing that I tried that actually like started to get traction and work, and I was doing it with a buddy, so we were kind of grinding it together. So it was a little harder to like lose motivation during like the slow days, but really we just did it for fun. I think that's what it is. Anything you go into, you have to really like it. And everybody says that, but it's true, because if you're just trying to get money like right off the bat, like nothing really works that way unless you get lucky. So, you know, we like doing it, and once we learned the algorithms a little better, we figured out. And like the blog music era was big. Everybody had one. There was a bunch of them, but like if you really learned how to use search, you know, you could get traffic. So that did its thing, and a lot of things run their course. Like we saw it happen, and we knew it wasn't going to last forever. I mean, there's still some out now, but they don't do near the traffic they used to, because artists just drop everything, you know, straight to Apple Music, Spotify now. So there's really no need for that. So we kind of saw it coming, and you know, all right, we did our thing with this. Now it's on to the next thing. But there's sometimes you gotta like kind of regroup and go like. So, like, because you can't just sometimes jump from one thing to the next, because they take time to build, or you got to like think like, what's my next thing? So, you know, I had money, so I sat on that for a little bit while I thought, and I didn't really have the next thing yet. So I was like, all right, let me just go back to the regular, you know, you could always get a regular job.
Right.
That's how I always felt. So I went back and I got 2 jobs. I was like, okay, both these jobs are making good money. Boom. And then the YouTube thing just, I don't know. I don't even know how it hit me. I was always playing Madden, and I would watch other people's like channels, and I was just like, I feel like I could do this. Specifically like tips like that, because I was always just like, back then I was a much better player, because that's all I cared about was just being good. And I would watch tip channels, and there was like a few good ones that I liked. Like Zan had a good channel, like Madden Daily. There was a few good channels, but a lot of the tip channels I didn't think were that good. So I was like, if they're getting a lot of views, I'm like, I probably could do this as like a side thing. So then like, let me try this, let me see if this sticks. And that started getting traction pretty quick. And so like you just jump from thing to thing. But that was Madden, I guess this is a long answer, but that was Madden 17. The end of Madden 17 is when I started. So this is actually the year 2017, like March, I think, is when I created it. So we're about.
Yeah, we love long answers. Do you recall any of the people that you? So you mentioned Zan. Do you recall any of the other people that like you were watching at that point that you were like, okay, I might be able to do something like this?
It was mainly Zan was one of the main ones, because we've always been friends like back since like Madden 08. We've always like kind of been in touch, been friends. So I would watch his channel because I knew he was good at the game. So I was like, you know, and I didn't have as much time to like lab and do those things. So I was always working. So I would just like go to his channel, see what was popping. I would check out Madden Daily, because I knew they put out like really good content, and I knew they were like pro players. So I was like, all right, I know anything they're posting is gonna be good. Those are like the main 2. I didn't watch like MUT channels and stuff like that. I didn't really watch gameplay channels. It was mainly just tips. The tips guys. I just wanted to know what was kind of going on, like what was new. So I didn't really have like, I guess like those would be the inspirations, because I was like, okay, they're doing it. I'm like, I could do what they do. And then I would see I would look at some of the other tip channels that I didn't think were as good, and I was like, okay, well, if they're getting views, right? I was like, I think I would at least be able to get some, because I'm like, I actually know the game pretty well. Like I knew it a little more closely to like how Zan knew it. But Zan kind of always had his own style. He would break things down a little bit differently. But you know, I was like, okay, I can just do like a basic version of this. But I'm like, some of the stuff other people are posting, I'm like, this stuff's really not even that good. It's not really working. And I'm like, I know a bunch of good stuff, like just from playing it over the years. A lot of stuff just translates. So I was like, I think I could do this. And that's really why I tried.
You wound up being correct. Wound up being very much correct about it.
It was really more the people that I thought did it bad that motivated me to start it than the ones that did it good. Because you see somebody that's good and does it, and you're like, okay, well, that's why they get views, because they're good and their info is good. But when you see like some of the people that maybe you perceive to be bad and they're having success, that's what I was like, okay, well, if they can do it, now I think I can do it. If I was just going up to people that were good, I might not have ever started. Cause I was like, man, I can't do it like these. I'm not on the level these guys are. I'm like a little bit below them. So
that's a reasonable point. Just getting inspiration from every which way. But how is this like fitting into your day-to-day life? Because you mentioned you're working 2 jobs at this point. You know, you got this inkling for YouTube, you got the background in the music blog, and you know, you're seeing some stuff like, man, these guys are getting views, and I feel like I could do a little bit better than that. But I gotta imagine with 2 jobs, you didn't have a whole heck of a lot of extra time to throw around at this new venture, right? Where were you fitting in some of this like earliest YouTube action for yourself?
Just after work. So one of the jobs was like full-time and the other was part-time. So I would work, you know, usually from like 9 to like 4 at the main job.
Okay.
Then the second job I'd go to from like 5 to the second job. I worked at Best Buy and I just like unloaded the trucks. So like some days, you know, it'd be light. So I might go in at 5, get off at 8, you know, or maybe I get off at 9 or 10. But either way, I would just come home and just do it then. Like, it would be like the first thing I did when I got home from work. And the good thing about like making tip videos is they're not that hard to make. So it wasn't something that took hours. Like, I would literally come home, I'd record a tip. It might take like 15-20 minutes to record it, and I didn't really edit or anything back then. I just would like record the tip and just upload it, just the raw like video. So like the beginning of the video might have like a 2-second pause before I start talking.
Right.
In the end might have like a few second pause before it cuts off. Like, cause I wasn't clipping things and cutting stuff out and putting background music. So it didn't take long. It might be a 30-minute process like at most for most of the videos. And on a day where I was off, I would maybe do like 5 of those, and I would just have them kind of ready to go. So I would upload one, kind of set a time. I think it would just like manually post, and then I'd come home from work and I would just try to record something a day, and I would try to post every single day. That was really like my only strategy, was just post a video every day, don't miss a day, because that's just more chances people have to discover you. That's really all I did, and make it searchable. Like, but the blog like background kind of helped with like the SEO of YouTube. Now the algorithm on YouTube, even 5 years later, is like a lot more sophisticated than it was. But back then, like, you know, some of those tactics still worked for like, you know, getting your videos searched. Or people would search for Madden tips on Google, but sometimes a link to one of my videos would come up. So like, so you would get some traffic that way, the people that weren't even directly on YouTube. But yeah, it was just after work mainly, and on off days, just knock out a few here, a few there. They didn't take long though.
And then as far as like working the algorithm, you mentioned that it's changed, you know, in recent years, over the 5 years, it's looking a little bit different now. But you were prioritizing daily uploads, just getting something out there every day. Were you trying to work like, you know, like thumbnail magic at that point, or were there like hot button words and titles? Like, were you getting like real sweaty with it just yet?
No, I was only really focused on the titles. I didn't really focus on the thumbnail. Like, the thumbnails are awful. Like, they're bad. But I mean, everybody feels that way when they look back. But I think for the time, like the titles, I still think the titles at the time were good for what I was trying to accomplish.
Sure.
I wasn't worried about the thumbnail at all, because I always felt like the titles would grab me, you know. So I was like, let me just make this like something that you would just have to click on. But the thumbnail was just usually like a screenshot from the game, and it might have some text on it.
Right.
Whereas like now, it's like I try to like not use text, you know, at all costs. But sometimes you need to use like a word or two. It makes sense. But if you can avoid it, I feel like it's usually better.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. That's great. That's great. I mean, selfishly, I'm trying to learn as much as I can from you personally here too, bro. I got to be honest. I was scrolling through your the catalog.
Open book with it.
But I love that, man. It's super well appreciated. I think I liked your Madden 19 format. You had a string, like Saquon was in there, like getting a game with 200 yards, where it was like kind of like half of the screen was like the team color, and it was like real clear. It was like really clear that it was like a series of things. That was very appealing to my eyes as I was scrolling through some of your older stuff. Where
it would have like it would be like kind of diagonal cut, and it would have text with like a solid color and then a picture. I liked that style for a while. Couple things happened. Like, number one, I would never do that now, just because I've learned a lot more about thumbnails. But at the time, I really liked them. And I still think they look good. Like, I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize. Like, something can look good but still not be like good, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like in terms of like how much somebody would want to click on it. Like, sometimes the more professional something looks, the worse it can be. Like, sometimes having it look more raw is good. Like, it all depends on like what you're going for. But at the time I liked them, but a lot of other people started doing them too, like similar ways. And I've always like, you try to want to, like, some things you're gonna always like copy and like, okay, this is the hot thing, like, you know, everybody uses arrows, you know, like stuff like that, like you're gonna do because it makes sense, right? But
right,
you don't want, if other people, like at the time, like I'm doing tips, and if other Madden people are doing tips and some of them started using like similar styles, you don't want to look like too much like other people, because and sometimes somebody might not know if that's your video or someone else's. So like, you always want to, like, as much as you can, have like kind of some type of a signature look where they're like, oh, I know for sure that that's like this guy's video.
Totally.
And if they've liked your videos before and they're like, okay, I immediately know that's him just by the style of the thumbnail. But if other people start doing it, then it sometimes that can be confusing. So when that happens, I'll usually try to move on and find my next thing, I guess you could say. But now I don't even feel like I have a thing now. I just kind of go with the flow, and you know, just try to make it clickable, try to make it appealing to the human, because that's really what the algorithm is, you know, at this point.
So you prioritize, you know, kind of like a unique look, at least not like falling under like the YouTube thumbnail meta that, you know, and it's no hate, it's no shade, but you're right. No. I think when you see a lot of this stuff that just looks the same, it's like I don't know whose video this is. Like, this could be the 0 coins to 1,000,000 coins of like any of half of a dozen streamers. So prioritizing individuality. What else have you learned? Like, and then we can move on from thumbnails, but like specifically on thumbnails, just because I'm curious to hear what, like, prioritizing individuality. What are some of like your checklist in judging whether a thumbnail is going to be good? Is it contrast, like visual contrast? I noticed that the less text, the better. You know, able to see it on a small scale. Like, what are some more of your considerations other than individuality, lack of text, that you try to put into play with your thumbnails?
I mean, it all depends on the video as well, but so
okay.
The thumbnail is supposed to kind of be like almost, it's supposed to like reaffirm, I guess, the title. So like the title says one thing, you want to look at the thumbnail and be like, all right, that matches up. The reason, and I think simplicity, like that's something a lot of people overlook. When you look at, you know, the people that get the most views, like Mr. Beast and people like that, they're simple. Like, you look right at it and you don't even have to read the title, and you kind of have an idea what the video is just looking at the thumbnail. Yeah. You know, some people like having they say faces in it, make it better, but I've tried it a few times. I don't know that it really works for me, but that's because it's not been a consistent thing. So I think that can throw people off sometimes if it's not consistent. Definitely want like contrast. You want saturation to be high, even if it almost looks unrealistically too high, because really all it's doing is you're just trying to grab attention with it. Okay. You want it to, because someone's scrolling their phone, I don't know, I forget what they say, but you have, you know, it's like less than a second to capture someone's attention because you're just scrolling fast. So like something that's got a lot of contrast and saturation is naturally, it might make them stop for that brief second, look at it, and then if it looks interesting, they'll click.
Totally.
You definitely, the scale thing, like you definitely want to make sure, like even when it's small, that you can make out what it is. And try to stay away from text. Sometimes you need text. Sometimes it makes sense to have like text, but you never want to have too much. Like, you never want to have more than like 3 words tops. Okay. Because you don't want to make it too much to look at, because they're going to read the title, and they're reading the text and the thumbnail, and then you might have 2 other elements. Like, you want it to be simple. You want someone to be able to just like what some of the best people say is like, you want to be able to just blink. Like, if something's on the screen, you want to be able to just blink. Like, you see what it is and you get it. Like, there's not, like, you don't have to stop and like analyze it too much. You just know what. So it's simplicity is really the best thing. Simplicity, you know, contrast, saturation, less text. And it has to just reaffirm like what the video is, and be like sometimes be over the top version, you know?
Sure.
Like, if I'm trying to think of, like, it's hard to think of examples on the spot, but it's like if you think of a Mr. Beast thumbnail or something, the thumbnail isn't always exactly what the video looks like. It's more of like, it's an exaggerated version of it, but it's okay, because that's like the clickbait part of it. It's like, okay, it might not be this extreme, but it's like, it's showing you that like something extreme is gonna happen, and let me like use the thumbnail to show like the most extreme version of this.
Right, and then you got to tap into the video if you want to fill in the details.
Right,
create a little bit of interest, a little bit of intrigue in the thing. That's highly valuable info there, brother. I appreciate you sharing.
could link you to like there's like Twitter people on Twitter that just like break down thumbnails all day. I don't know if you've ever seen any of them, and they do so much. Like I can't even begin to go into the detail they do. Like they notice so much little things, and there's so many different styles. It's like one of those, like I forget what the saying is. Like there's more than one way to whatever. I don't know how the saying goes, but there's not like a one way to do it. There's so many different strategies and things you can do, and there's Twitter like pages that break them down. They'll show like all the different examples, and they'll do them like every day or every couple days. They'll make a thread and they'll like look at a new channel and show like their thumbnail style and why it works. So I'll DM it to you. And,
that would be great, bro. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I didn't honestly know that like, I've seen like streamer schools and whatever the case may be, but I have not had occasion to stumble on any of the thumbnail review type stuff. I gotta imagine your editing would be kind of similar, right? You change and tailor to the type of video that you're doing. I would imagine, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe simplicity is preferable. But for you and your experience with your videos and how they've developed, have you outsourced your editing? Did you learn how to do this yourself and kind of develop it as a personal like trade skill? What's the story with how your editing started and where it's at now?
Yeah, no, I've never outsourced anything.
Okay.
Like every once in a while I'll get someone to make a thumbnail. If it's something specific that I want that I can't really like achieve, I'll reach out to like McCullough, if you know who he is in the community. He makes great thumbnails. He works for ScoMo and stuff. Yeah, I'll reach out to him like, a few times a year for like a specific thing if I'm like I can't make it happen the way I know he could. But other than that, no. I've talked to a couple editors. It's a hard thing to give up editing. And I'm not even really I don't think I'm that great at editing. I think I'm like very basic, but I think it works for my content. I think some people go more over the top, and I think it just depends on your audience. I think I like my audience. It's like a good middle ground where you want it to be better than just beginner, but you don't like, I don't need it to be crazy over the top either. But I that's one thing I'm looking into, maybe outsourcing more, just because it does take up a lot of time. But I learned it all myself. You just learn as you go, and you see an effect or something, and then you search it. You don't even know what it's called, and you try to figure out like how do you do this?
Yeah.
And just little by little, you just learn more. But yeah, I still do it. The main thing I think is important with editing nowadays is like pacing. Like you got to move quick. Attention spans are awful, because of TikTok and stuff like that. Everybody wants things to keep moving. If you watch the biggest guys, like again, Mr. Beast or like ERIC or any of those guys, man, just watch their video and just count how many cuts are in the first like 10 seconds. Like in the first 10 seconds they might have 8 cuts. Like it's just it's constant change. And I'm not up to that level yet, because sometimes it's hard to with Madden. Or even you could look at like Kenny. You know who Kenny is? Like some of his recent videos have been blowing up because he's kind of been adapting that more. Just watch. It's like, watch how quick things, and he's like a phenomenal editor. Watch how quick everything changes, and there's like something else popping up. It's like, that's how you got to keep people's attention, because retention is so important on YouTube. So the best way to keep retention is like storytelling, which is tough. Like I'm still trying to get better at that. It's hard and some of the concepts, it's hard to tell a story with them.
I feel like you excel at that. I feel like you excel at that, though. From the outside looking in, like your videos are to the point right away, right? So I'm watching the Tyreek Hill scores a touchdown with all the requirements that you had in one of the latest videos, and it's like within the first 30 seconds to a minute, I'm watching Tyreek Hill take the thing for 6 on the kick return. You know what I'm saying? And I know Kenny has been posting a lot of his, I don't know what even you would call it, like the photos of what like the editing software looks like, and it's like, holy mackerel, there are really levels to this stuff. It seems like you could do so much if you have the time to learn, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, the bar has just been raised so much over the past few years that like you can't just do the simple stuff anymore. That's another big thing too. Like you got to get right into the video. Like don't have an intro. Like again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but like look at Mr. Beast. Like I mean, and obviously you're not gonna do stuff on the level he is because of the money, but just watch how the content rolls out. It's like as soon as a video starts, you're in the video. Like, and that took a while for me to learn, because everybody normally is like, they want to do a little intro, kind of tell you what's about to happen. Like, hey, go ahead and subscribe. It's all psychology, man. There's so many like little things. Like I started figuring out ways to get more subs. Like it's not good to do it at the beginning of the video because people are so used to hearing that in every video for 10 years.
Right.
You just skip over it, and that hurts your attention. Or they just leave the video because they're just like, all right, you already lost me. I'm out.
Yeah, never mind. I'm done. Didn't need to see this that much after all.
First 30 seconds of your video is by far the most important. Like that's where you lose that. Like really, the first 10 seconds, that's where you lose like the majority of people. So like you literally just, as soon as they press play, the video has to start. Just reaffirm what's about to happen. Hey, in this video, I'm gonna score a touchdown with Tyreek Hill in every Madden. Boom, here's the requirements. Boom, now we're on the field. Like in
couple
seconds,
dings, couple little bit of audio clips, and bang, and we're into the video. You mentioned a second ago, Eric, how the bar has been raised, and I love to hear that. And you know, I've been more of a casual, I mean, certainly more so than you, you know, being so involved for all the years, but from maybe more of a third-party perspective, my own, it seems like there's far more creators now, for certain, just like as a quantity. I don't know, and I'm curious your thoughts. Is it because, you know, things have become more accessible? Is the popularity and kind of a lot of the momentum that you helped generate throughout these years? I'll say it for you. I think that also very likely plays in. You know, people today can see guys like you who have you know, worked their way into a career at doing this, and you know, a lot of us have that same pipe dream of, you know, recreating the same type of thing. From your vantage point, from your perspective, how has the creation community changed and evolved? Is it just that there's more of us now? Are people getting better at it? Is it too saturated? What do you think?
There's definitely more people. I think it's just becoming more like acceptable too. You know, so many people make a living off of it now. I know YouTube put out like a number or something like how many people like they paid out last year, like over like 6 figures, something. It's like crazy. And then it's become more accessible because of like TikTok and stuff like that. So like people, you know, it was maybe a little harder to get a start like on YouTube, but like if you start on TikTok, it's a little bit easier, and then you can like take that and you can like, you know, bring some of those people maybe on the YouTube or a Twitch stream or something. So it's more accessible, it's more accepted, it's more normal. But just the bar being raised is like people are just taking it more seriously. 10 years ago, I mean, dude, you could get 1 million subs not really doing nothing too crazy, because it was just not many people doing it. You know, like I always feel like my biggest thing is like I wish I would have started doing Madden like 2 years earlier, just because it'll be so difficult for me to get to 1 million subs now, because subs don't really matter no more. Like you don't. Back then, you had to sub to really like try to keep up with people. You don't have to sub or do nothing. If you watch somebody regularly, as soon as you get on, they're gonna be on your homepage, so you don't have to sub.
Whether you're subbed or not.
Yeah, so it's hard. Like, I mean, 1 million is like, it's just a goal that I would like to achieve. I don't think it's impossible, but it's gonna be really hard just because it's not the norm to. People don't sub like they used to, and there's just so many more people you can sub to. So it's like, if you already got your 2 or 3 Madden guys you watch, it's like, I don't really need a third guy or a new guy.
Like, how much can you possibly watch type of deal?
Yeah, so, but the bar's just been raised because of people like Mr. Beast and just all these guys, like even certain guys in gaming, like they just take it more seriously. You know, people have gotten better cameras, better mics, people have gotten better editing. I mean, you go watch old Madden videos, like there ain't much editing. You know, people just they just play the full game. They might cut. The most you would see was just some cuts, maybe between, you know, cut out some of the dull plays, but that was like the extent of it. Now you got transitions, you've got different music coming in at different points, you got you know, some voiceover spots, and then you got some live comm spots, you've got, you know, sound effects, you got effects popping up on the screen. It's you know, the bar has just been raised. That's really all it is. So you can't just do basic stuff anymore. It'd be really hard to catch on because people expect a different level of quality now. YouTube is like people's TV, you know, like that's their TV shows are the people they watch, and like that's how people are producing. Some of the better ones are producing their content like a TV show almost. Like they're taking it that seriously. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, true indeed. And you know, like I said, I think it's guys like you that really, you know, help to pave the way to make this an option. Yeah, and I know you mentioned that subs, you know, especially anymore, aren't as important. Do you have any like fond memories of like any of your milestones that you hit and it really hit you? Like, was it was it 50K? Was it 100K? Like, did you have any moments about a milestone that were like, okay, hold on a second, I might be onto something here?
A few. Like when I hit 25K, that's around the time I think 25. I don't know. 25K. I was still working like my two jobs, and when I hit 25K, I was like, okay, like this is going really well, like better than I thought it would. I didn't think I would have been happy getting to like 10. That was like the initial goal, you know.
Sure.
And the goals change once you hit them, right? But 25, I was like, okay, like I think I can, like, you know, this is gonna be a side hustle forever. Like that's where I felt like. And then once I started getting closer to 50, that's when I think that's when I went full time. Like when I got around 50ish, because I was making enough, and I was like, okay, I'm like, you know, I quit one of the jobs, so I just had the main job and then YouTube. So I quit the part-time job, and then I was like, I knew once, I think it was the summer going into Madden 19, I was going to quit that job and try it full time. But once it was on my mind that I was going to do that, I wound up quitting in like April. And my managers knew what I was like going to do. And he's like, he kind of knew, like, I just like once it was already on my mind that I was going to quit in a few months, like my head just wasn't even in the job.
You had a foot out the door.
Yeah. So he literally was like, dude, he's like, I know you don't want to be here no more. Like you want to do this, you know, and that's cool. He's like, you could leave today. He's like, just write me a note and just date it 2 weeks previous, so it'll be like you put your 2 weeks in 2 weeks ago. He was cool. He was like, I know this is what you want to do, and he's like, truth be told, like your head's just not here right now, and like that's just not good for us, you know, and just go do your thing. And I was like, you're right. I was like, I appreciate it, you know. I was like, I'll put it in today and still work my 2 weeks, so you know you could. Yeah. He's like, nah, it's like it's cool. He's like, it's like, because I really wasn't. It wasn't a position where it was like. They could put someone else in that position. It wasn't like, oh, we had to go find somebody, because it was, you know, people move from store to store all the time, so it wasn't like they could just pull somebody. So that was a big deal. To me, the biggest one was when I hit like around 70K. I don't know why, like not 100K. 70K was like a weird like number where I just felt like, okay, like I made it. I don't know, because a lot of Madden channels, especially that just did tips at the time, the biggest one I think was like Madden Daily, and they might have been at like 55, 60ish at the time.
So you had surpassed them.
Once I kind of passed them, but they weren't really posting as much anymore. They could have got way bigger, but they were more focused on their website, like paying customers, you know. So they weren't posting like I was. So it wasn't like I just flew past them. They just weren't as active. They would just post a few times a year kind of thing. So, but once I kind of passed that, because no one had got that far just doing tips at the time, and that's when I felt like, okay, most tip channels would get to like 25, 30, 40K, like the better ones, and then just kind of die out. They really wouldn't grow no more past that point. So once I kind of got to the point where I reached something that no one else had done, that was the biggest thing for me. Then I was like, okay, now how do I like increase the ceiling? Because I'm going to hit a ceiling at some point just doing tips. There's only so many people interested in that. And then so that's when I started doing more news and stuff like that. And then 100K was just cool because, you know, you get the plaque and it just felt like official.
I mean, it's 100K, yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. But now it's just, nothing's going to probably move me until 1 million at this point, because that's the next really big milestone. Like 500K will be cool because it's like halfway there, but I want the gold plaque, and it might be 5-6 years into the future. Like, you know, I'm trying to figure out ways to speed that up, but I also want to do other things. I don't want to just do Madden YouTube forever, because I also think the best days of that are you know, well behind us anyway. I think Madden, I think sports gaming in general is migrating a lot more to TikTok, you know, honestly. So that's like another conversation. But
how are you, like, are you planning adjustments for that? And it kind of falls into one of the questions I had on here for you was, I remember we were talking to, I think it was Xerxes, and then ScoMo touched on it too, about second channels, because I was always confused as a non-YouTuber. I was like, why would you divert, you know, views away from your main, you know, situation? It didn't really make any sense. And they explained that you know, it's more if you're kind of targeting outside of your demographic, like your audience, with a video that they might not like, it could kind of scuff. Right, it scuffs your algorithms. I noticed you have a second channel too. So for you now looking forward, is this a type of thing where you're considering, you know, expanding the second or another channel to kind of focus on some of this ancillary stuff? Where's your head at now as you're looking forward?
I've been trying to figure that out for like 2 years. That's like my issue. I'm very indecisive. can't just pick something. And there's a lot of different things I want to do, but I know I can't do them all. So I'm just constantly trying to figure out. I've messed with the second channel a little bit. I never keep up with it because I don't really have a true direction for it. And I don't have a true direction for it. I think eventually I will, but a channel in itself, it's like you want to niche it down as much as possible. Like even if you think it's niche down, you could probably niche it down more. It's just that's just how YouTube works. You don't want to be a mixed bag. Some people can do that, you know. Some people that have really big personalities and people watch for them, they can kind of get away with that. But also, even if those people niche down, they would probably get way bigger. Because it's easier to get bigger just focusing on just focusing on a main audience than focusing on, okay, well, half the people will watch this type of content. It's like if you just focus on the content that everybody would watch, then it just finds more people that just like that. But when you got a mixed bag, then it's like it's too many different types of audiences that YouTube's trying to like figure out which one to serve it to. So the more specific you can like get your stuff, the better. It's just how it's always been. So I mean, I'm constantly experimenting though, because I don't feel like I've gotten near where I want to get on the main channel. So I'm constantly trying to experiment with different ideas and see like, okay, like the Tyreek Hill video, like that series of videos that I started doing this year, that was initially an experiment because I saw a couple people do it in 2K and they were getting good views. And I was like, oh, no one's doing this in Madden. Like, let me see if this works for Madden. Me and another guy started doing it at the beginning of the year, CK Birds, and he makes a lot of great stuff too. We both started doing it at the same time, and like in a little group chat, and we like bounce ideas. So like I'll tell him like, hey, I'm gonna do this player, so just a heads up so you don't do them, and then he'll be like, all right, I'm gonna do this player, you know. So we don't want to make the same videos, you know.
Sure.
And then it caught on, it got popular. I was like, all right, that worked. But then for every one of those, you got 3 or 4 ideas you throw out there that don't work, you know. So you're trying to just find the next thing that can increase your ceiling. But I feel like I've kind of, with tips and news, I kind of got to that ceiling. I'm not really finding enough new people doing that because there's only so many people interested in that. Whereas entertainment style videos, you're targeting the NFL audience now.
Right. Like
people that don't play Madden can still watch that because it's interesting. And they've played Madden at some point in the past, you know, so they'll watch that video. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out, how to do more of that. Second channel, I just don't know what I want to do with it yet, honestly. But there's like 5 different channels that I could realistically that I would maybe want to do. I got to figure out. And I still want to mess with streaming a little bit, but it's just you get burnt out and you're like,
it's a lot. It's all a lot, dude, and it's constant. I mean, even someone, you know, and I think this is great to hear from someone in your perspective who is still so forward looking and like, you know, this idea that you don't have things figured out yet and you are making it up as you go is too aloof, but in some ways, for certain, just kind of finding what works in your experiments to, like, you know, some of the stuff will bang, some of the stuff won't, and certainly without asking too many specifics. Have you found that the financial aspect of YouTube, has it been consistently growing kind of proportionally to your subscriber count? Is it more indicative of the quality of videos? Is it just kind of when you get lucky and you hit on one of these ideas and it's great and that's reflected? What does your scalability look like throughout this? Is it plateaued out? Are we still moving? And again, without too many specifics, just kind of like trend wise.
I mean, this has been, Madden 22 has probably been my best year. Definitely, like, I know money wise it has been. I'm not 100% sure view wise. I have to check because Madden 20 was just a big view wise for everybody. I wasn't even trying hard in Madden 20. I don't think a lot of people were. I don't know. I don't think no one really knows what it was. But Madden 20 views were just crazy. But I've made more money this year. That's because, you know, ad rates fluctuate and things like that. And part of the Madden 20 year is when COVID hit, like in that March, April. So like money was like really down those months. Yeah, so like some of the money, but then it's not even just that though, because like the longer your channel's active and the more views it gets, like your ad rates usually go up. Like every year I make more this year, like ad wise, than I did last year and the year before. Because I guess you get better ads over time because your channel becomes more trusted, essentially. And sometimes like I started putting more ads in videos. I kind of didn't do as much of it earlier on because I was like, oh, this is gonna like be bad for the viewer, but then you realize a lot of people don't really care that much about it because it's a few seconds and they skip it anyway. So
right,
it you make more money. So like definitely money wise, my best year. I don't know about view wise, but content wise, I think it's my best year because I started trying new things and they've worked. And I think it's just quality of video. It's a lot of things. It's quality of video, but it's also the idea is like everything. Idea has to be good. Sometimes idea is just bad, even though you think it's good. You put it out there, people aren't interested in it. So the idea is the most important thing, and then from there, the title and the thumbnail, and then the actual video. Like if you got a good idea that's interesting to people, you got a good title, thumbnail, they click on it, and the video is bad, then it's all for nothing. So it all kind of goes hand in hand. I think growth potential is the best that it's ever been for me personally, because I've kind of figured out how to make better videos, and I want to continue to try to do that. Whereas with like news and tips, they're easy to make. There's not a lot that you can throw in to jazz them up too much. And even if you can, it kind of goes unnoticed because people are just there to get the information they want and leave. They're not there to be entertained.
Right.
So growth is in finding video ideas that entertain people and that can reach people that don't even really watch Madden, but they know football and they used to play Madden. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Let me watch that. I think that's where the growth is with anything.
And you alluded to it earlier as well about the multiple platforms that folks now have available to try to grow their following and kind of get some people to carry around between their things, which it seems like is newer, maybe, right? Like it doesn't seem like there was quite as many. But it also contributes to this feeling of like, man, like how can I possibly do everything, right? How can I put up some Twitch streams and also still, have my daily upload, whatever you want to do with your uploads. You're considering the direction, the second channel. Now, you're expected to throw something up on TikTok and have daily uploads there and like stroke that algorithm. Is it too much now, or do you think that this is all contributing actually to a positive sense of growth for people? Because I don't, like me personally, I don't feel like I utilize all my available platforms, but at the same time, it's like I'm also feel like I'm doing my best. Is it a little too much?
Yeah. It's both. I mean, it's too much, but it is helpful. It's more opportunities, and the people that utilize all of them well and have multiple channels and stuff, they outsource work. You have to. That's like the only answer. I think that's part of the reason I haven't been able to like fully like nail stuff down, because when you're doing everything on the main channel, like that just takes up time, and then you're like, okay, second channel, which is funny because the ad agency that I'm with that like gets sponsorships, like they offer free video editing. I just found this out like a couple months ago, and I guess it's because they and they seem pretty decent from the people I've seen them do, but I guess because they figure the less work you have to do, the more videos you can make, which is then more potential videos that they can put sponsorships in, and they make money off that. So I might look into that just because, I mean, it's free and they do good work, but it's just certain things I feel like, I'm like, man, I'm so particular with it. Like, I don't even know how to explain to you how I want this done, but it's probably really not that hard. I'm just overthinking it, but that you have to outsource if you want to like attack everything, because it would just take up too much time. But, if you can only do a few, like if you have one channel, you could always stream, even if you're just streaming for 2 hours a day. Like I could do that. I could fit it in. I just feel burnt out. So like I don't want to do it, but I do want to do it. I tried it. I liked it a little bit, but it's just, I don't know. You just get burnt out. So you're like, I don't feel like doing this today. And if you're not going to be consistent with streaming, it's really no point. And then TikTok's probably the third one, because TikTok's kind of easy because you could just clip other stuff you already did and just throw it up on there. Right. That one's not too hard. I don't use mine enough either. I'm going to try to start soon. But TikTok, I mean, TikTok's like making people famous overnight. It's just, and, I mean, it's nuts. It's still really,
seems like discoverability the highest. But I like the play our boy ScoMo is using. He's kind of killing multiple birds with this one morning stream stone. Like he's getting up the stream. McCullough's in there. He's getting whatever he wants to get recorded for the day's video out there too. So, but I agree with the sentiment for sure that it feels like it can be a lot sometimes, but it also lends itself to what you were mentioning earlier. But it's probably easier now than it ever has been to get something going if you're willing to put in the legwork. Do you have a video like your hardest banger? Is there a story behind your craziest dub of a video of all time? Do you have one that you think of right off the rip?
Yeah, the Brady one I did this year. That was the experiment. That was like the first one.
Yeah,
doing the Every Madden with him.
I mean, and Brady was so topical for the time. Like that was.
He
good.
always is. That's the thing.
Right.
Then he retires. Video starts getting more views. Then he unretires. Video's starting to get more views. If he wins another Super Bowl, video's gonna like it's all. But it's always gonna be relevant because he's one of the most famous athletes ever, and he's probably a top 5 athlete all time, and probably always will be. So yeah. But that was the experiment video because I was like, if it don't work with Brady, then it's not gonna work at all. Like that was my thought process. If it can't work for him, then who the hell is it gonna work for? And that video popped off. It started bad. I mean, it took like a week before it got traction because it wasn't a typical video for me. But that's what changed my whole outlook because it proved to me that because that's not what my audience watches, But your goal when you get views is the way you get a lot of views is to get people that don't know you to watch. Like that's. Yeah. You don't really, it's weird to say that, but it's like, if only your audience is watching your videos, you're probably not getting a lot of views.
Fair.
The majority of the views are coming from people that don't watch you, So that proved to me that, okay, if the idea is good, and that video even, I look back, I'm like, I don't even think the video is that good because I've gotten better with that since I've done them like 20 times now. I've gotten better and like figured out different ways to do things in them to like make the pacing better. But it was just, the idea was good enough, and that's what proved to me. I was like, all right, if the idea is good enough, video is good enough, YouTube will find the people for it. It might take a week or 2 weeks to get off the ground, and it'll probably wind up being my most viewed video. It's close, it's almost there. So, but that's pretty that would just change the whole outlook on like how I like viewed content, honestly.
It was like the perfect storm of situation, like even based on how he was moving in real life. Like you said, like the retiring to unretiring thing. It's like, hold on a second now. Video became relevant 3 times over, like 3 different times. Yeah.
Once he's trending, people are searching for him, and that video might pop up, or it might pop up on home pages because he's just trending. Same thing with like why I did Tyreek yesterday. I'm like, damn, Tyreek just got traded. That's a big thing. It's out of nowhere. He's gonna be trending for a couple days and put this video out. Yeah. Same thing when Odell got traded. I got that video out. I was already working on it because we knew he was like looking for a trade, but I was just waiting to see what team he went to. When Cam Newton went back to the Panthers, I did it with him because when it's trending is like the best time to do it because you're going to get an influx.
Quick with it.
Yeah, when you do the ones that aren't trending, like you just like, oh, I'm just going to do, a random one today. I did like Gronkowski one time. Like that one took a while to like get traction because like it still ain't my main audience. So it's going to take time for YouTube to like find the people that watch the other ones and they're like, oh yeah, they like this. Let's show them the Gronk one, and it takes longer to get to the So, but when it's trending, it's like cheating. They call it trend jacking. So anytime something's trending, if you could make a video out of it somehow, some way, like you're gonna get more views just because it's
Bro, I mean, that is TikTok though. Like I lament it sometimes though, because it's like this generation of kids are gonna be like grow up being the least original, least creative group of all time. Because in some ways, a lot of these kids are leading from the front and brand new trends and doing some stuff we haven't seen. But then there's the next 100,000 people who do literally the exact same thing over again, and I feel it dilutes itself a little bit, I suppose.
That's what the creator world is, though. I mean, you do what works.
Kenny Kenny said it. He said, I mean, he's not the only one to say it, but he was like, you either do it first or you do it better, and there's really no in between.
And you don't even have to do it better. I mean, doing it better is ideal because that's like, okay, if it's been done. Like, that was my philosophy when I started doing tips out the gate. When I created it, I was like, I'm just going to do it better because there's a million tip channels. But even if you don't do it better, just because the fact that it's popular, like you still might you can ride that wave. Like it is what it is. Like there's not a whole lot of creativity in a lot of the creator spaces because it's like there's a meta in everything, So if something works, it's like you try to do your version of it. Some people will just straight up copy. I mean, that happens all the time, but you want to try to put some type of your spin on it if you're like taking something else. So like when I started doing that series, like I didn't think of that. I saw 2K people doing it and I said, okay, well, no one's doing it for Madden. So that was my spin. Let me do it for Madden because these guys are just 2K guys, And now a lot of Madden guys do it, which is cool. I was like, all right, I finally did something. I finally started one thing, because it's been
trendsetter, bro.
I've been trying to find something for years. I was like, all right, I finally got something that like caught on or whatever. So now I'm like, okay, I got to figure out what the next thing is because you don't want to, most channels are just, like MUT gameplays or whatever, You can get that from anybody. So like, especially if you're new starting out, it's hard to gain traction because you got to do something, try to do something different. That's why you see Kenny's popping off. He's still doing MUT gameplay technically when you break it down, but he's telling a story in the videos, and he's editing it well, and the idea is good. And look at his last 4 or 5 videos. They're like all 6-figure views from a channel that only has maybe like what 20K subs.
Yeah, it's
he's
nuts.
Getting, and that's the difference. You look at him and then go look at any other MUT gameplay. You know, it's like difference. That you're getting something different there. Yeah, and that's why it's working.
For sure. I mean, bro, this has been super helpful. I know we crossed over an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. I just got like 2 more bullet points I wanted to touch on with you, and then we could start to bring this thing around town, bring this thing home. We've been, you've been offering so much guidance and advice for, folks just getting the operation started up, and considerations there. It's been hyper valuable for sure. I'm curious, one of the bullet points I got here, it's kind of been brought to the front of some of these conversations with the whole the artesian builds fiasco, right? The short story of just these companies that are more looking to use platforms for advertising, getting at small creators, discount codes. My question for you is, did you have to learn any hard lessons about advocating for yourself? Did you take any deals early on that you wish you didn't, or anything that you learned as far as your value and kind of standing by that? Did you ever get fleeced on your worth at some point, or were you kind of good to go right off the rip?
I don't think so, because I never really took deals until I had like a agency.
Okay.
I didn't know how to really find them. I think I reached out a couple times to try to see if I can get a deal with like this company or that, but you never hear back. But I was smaller, and then another YouTuber that, bigger like NFL YouTuber approached me, and we already had followed each other, and he's like, hey, like I'm with this ad agency, and they do sponsorships for me, and they're looking to bring in some more people. They're trying to get some Madden people, and then I looked into it. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah. He's like, dude. He's like, you'll make extra money. He's like, end of the month, you just get checks in the mail from these sponsorships you do. He's like, they're not too hard usually. So that's really the only time I started getting. I never had any deals before that. So, and they negotiate on your behalf. So they take a little bit of a cut, but I'm cool with it because I don't have to worry about none of that. They just bring something to me. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, I want to do it. No, I don't. I've turned down stuff. I've thought it was like, nah, I don't want to work with that company. But they just bring it to me. Hey, you want to do it? Yes, no, okay. Well, then they send you the stuff in the email, send it in for approval, and you post it. And then you get a check. Sometimes it's be 5 months later. Sometimes you get a check. But it comes, and then you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. So.
When did it start to make sense for you to like chase down like now kind of a third party to do some of this for you? Was there like a minimum threshold? You mentioned it was just kind of that you had this friend that was the NFL YouTuber, and it was more as it tends to be, man. It's more who you know than what you know. But you had any thoughts on like when the point at which a platform has some legs?
Man, it depends on your audience, because I'll be honest, like I saw somebody else post this recently. I don't remember the exact words they used, but like views don't equal like what's the word? Views don't equal influence, right? So you can have 100,000 views, but that don't mean you have influence. You might just have a video. People just like that video and they just watched it, or people like your videos, but that don't mean they're gonna go buy something because you tell them to buy it, right? Whereas some, you can have a person that gets 5,000 views. But those 5,000 people are like die-hard fans, and like for sure. they might make you more money. So there's no number. It's just, it really just depends on if a company, they just usually look at views. They're like, all right, we're gonna pay you X amount of dollars, you get X amount of views. So we want 100,000 views. So put it in a video, and if that video doesn't get 100,000 views, then I can put it in another video, or they just prorate it. Like, okay, well, it got 70,000, so just pay me for the 70,000.
Get most of it, sure.
But that don't mean they're gonna make their money back, because maybe my audience didn't like that product and they didn't go sign up and buy it, right? But they're just usually looking at views. They're like, okay, this is the average views he gets. All right, we'll work with him. Usually, the more views you have, the better. The bigger you are, the more people are gonna pay you. That's just usually how it works. But that doesn't mean when you're smaller that you don't have influence. So a lot of companies, they're still so new to like advertising with creators that they don't really know that yet. They just think like, they still think of it like TV. Like, okay, well, this is just going to be in front of this many eyes, and it's better to advertise like on a YouTube or something, because the audience is at least a very what's the word? Like, it's targeted. Like,
right.
If you got a commercial on TV, you don't know who the hell is watching that.
Right, true indeed. I mean, and it
On
feels
your
like
channel,
streamers
you're getting football fans, males of this age, like the exact down to a T, like who's what kind of person's watching this, so.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think streamers are also still kind of figuring out their worth, because to your point, it's still so new. It's like there's not a whole heck of a lot of precedent as to there's really it's not formulaic, right? And I love your distinction of, the value in quality over quantity, I guess, is kind of a decent way to sum it up. But it seems like folks are still figuring it out. Well, what is your platform worth? What is a 50 average viewer stream of people of every single one of those 50 people has gifted a sub and they've been subscribed for 6 months, and your permeation into your community is really deep and really intense. And for my own personal taste, I feel like I would always tend to prefer, and I was talking about with a problem too. We were talking more specifically on the streaming bit of it, but are the 60 people that would ride with you to sit in front of a camera and just talk to them for an hour more valuable than the 300 that'll show up to watch you play Madden Weekend League? I think probably, yeah. I think you'd probably want to take, the 60 people that are really invested in what you're doing, and your success. And it sounds like, in a vaguely similar way, the same holds true for YouTube considerations.
Yeah, because those 60 are going to support no matter what. But in the eyes of a company, 300 people, they see 300 is greater than 60. This is
Totally.
This is more people that'll see this advertisement, right? Yep. But the person with the 60, more of the bigger percentage of those people might actually buy it. I think that's when you're smaller too, you're usually not going to get the sponsorships because, like I said, they just look at numbers. So that's why when you're smaller, you can still make money. You just have to offer the product yourself. You can't. Right. You're not That's why a lot of people oh, well, if you sub, I got sub tips, or they have a lot of Madden people start Madden sites and they make good money, because even if they're smaller, it doesn't when you really break it down, you don't need a lot of people to support you to make a lot of money. Right. It's a very small number. If you can get 100 people to give you, I don't know, $20, $30 a month, that adds up. It's a lot of money. To make $100,000, what is it? You need 1,000 people to spend $100 with you over a year. Right? I think that's what it is. I'm not good at math.
No, that's the one, right? Isn't that the one we wanted? 10, 100,000? Yeah, that's it. Make 100,000. That's a quick math.
So imagine you start a Madden site. You have a YouTube channel, you have a stream, you start a Madden site. You just need to get 1,000 members, and that's really not that much when you think about it. And let's say it's $10 a month, so you need 1,000 people, and you need them to be signed up at least 5 months out of the year. That's $100,000.
The power that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you good. You good.
No, I was just gonna say, just the numerical power of the internet is such that, like you're saying, 1,000 people might feel like a lot if they were all in the room with you, but as far as the internet goes, 1,000 people not unattainable by any means.
I think when the game comes out, if you have a channel, you're posting tips, and you have your stream, there's a lot of interest at the beginning of the year. You get people to sign up. If someone stays signed up for more than a month, they're usually going to be signed up for a while. It's like Netflix. You might not watch it for 3 months, but you just it's $10 or whatever. Probably higher. I think it's like 15 now. I don't know. But you just stay signed up because you're just I'm going to watch it again at some point. When I want to watch it, I want it to be there.
Sure.
It's the same thing. If someone doesn't cancel after that first month, they're typically going to be signed up for, 3, 4, 5 months. It's at the beginning of the year, it's easy to get an influx of people in, and then you just keep updating stuff, make sure content's new. That's something I did that earlier on. I kind of brought it back. I started Patreon again. And it's cool. I could go harder with that and probably make more money. But again, it's there's so many different things you get, you start getting burnt out with stuff. But it's not hard with a small audience to make money. Because even when I was still side hustling it, I sold ebooks and stuff, third-party sites. And I would make $1,000 a month sometimes here or there just selling ebooks. And that's when I didn't have even maybe 10,000 followers or subscribers. It wasn't a huge audience. The videos were getting 1,000 views, but some of those people were okay, all the free stuff's good, so I want to get the paid stuff and see what that's about. And totally. Money adds up. So when you're small, you gotta you can still get it, but you got to get it yourself. When you get bigger, then companies will just throw money at you because they just see numbers, and then you're like, all right, well, cool, if you want to throw me money. But I think the most important thing is you want to take deals where they're paying you, like, it's like, okay, you're getting this money to promote this. Like affiliate deals are like tougher because it's like, okay, we'll give you a percentage of what they buy. Those aren't bad all the time. Sometimes those, like, in certain niches, like, those can make you a ton of money. Like, so I'm not even saying like they're bad, but if you're promoting like a product, it's usually better just to like get that upfront money, because you don't always truly know how many people are going and buying it, and if they're really cutting you the fair deal. Like, it's like, hey, this is my rate, take it or leave it. And that's usually I find the best way to go about it. But there are still some like there's some people that pay good money for like signups and like stuff, like gambling sites, for example. They pay like crazy, like stuff like that. That's why you see everybody doing underdog fantasy, because they freaking, if people are depositing money, they cutting you money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, facts. Yeah, so I got something floating with Bet US that's like half of somebody's loss, half of your signups losses for all time. I was like, bro, I'm sorry.
That's like the evil side of it, where they're actually like,
facts.
I'm just talking about like there's some that like they'll just cut you, like, okay, anybody that signs up and just deposits money, like we'll give you X amount of dollars, 20, 30, 50, whatever, like whatever you agree upon. But no, there are a lot of gambling sites that will, like, anybody that signs up through your code, they will cut you a money of their losses, which that becomes like evil, because then it's like
you got to pray on their downfall.
Well, not just that, but a lot of people that take advantage of that are like the people that sell picks. So then they'll sell you bad picks because they're making money off of it. At the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen in sports. Like, anything could happen. So, like, it could be a bad pick and it could still win. Or it could be, like, a really good, well-thought-out pick and it could still lose. There's so much variance in sports. That's why nobody usually makes money long-term gambling, because it's too unpredictable. But if they're, like, might purposely give you something that they don't think is good, because they can make money off of that if you signed up through their thing. So, it's tricky. Like, I wouldn't do something like that, because I feel like that's just inherently, like, no. Like, I don't want to gain something off your loss. That's like, there's too many other ways to make money, I feel like.
And that's why it has remained floating for me for a few weeks. But I mean, I love getting input from somebody like you on it, because I mean, you're right. There's certainly money to be made on these, discount codes and whatnot. And there's the idea that, okay, but so for you to make money, you have to make them money first. I think in a lot of cases it can wind up being predatory, because some of these people are, really monopolizing smaller platforms. And then, the creator kind of loses sight of what they're trying to build in favor of building, the corporate structure of whatever they're trying to peddle for, 5% or whatever it is of whatever the heck they're selling. So, bro, a couple times in our conversation today, and I'd love to, kind of bring it home with this question. It's one that I like to touch on with all of the guests on FendTalks. I've seen you in the chat. I always get hyped when I see you come through for these. So I'm not sure if you've heard it asked before. I have a real intensely personal relationship with my mental health. I deal with bipolar depression in varying degrees of success, and I'm always curious, to hear from somebody like you who has had to combat the potential for burnout and deal with, the ego boost that is the launch of a game into, maybe there will be a lower season and a tougher time, and kind of, how you feel about yourself accordingly. I'm curious, Eric, do you, and like I always say, an acceptable answer is I enjoy really great mental health, and I do this, that, and the third to keep it that way. But I'm curious about your own personal experience with mental health, specifically as it has related to your creation career, how you've stayed on the up and up. Have you stayed on the up and up?
Yeah, I mean, mine's like generally pretty good. But
Awesome.
Anybody that does this will tell you that, it's a roller coaster which is a lot of things in life. But I think with this, it's just, there's so many obstacles that people don't see. It can be hard. Like, burnout's usually the biggest thing for most people, and like I experienced that. I feel like I've been going through that for like 2 years, but it's not to the point where it's like, it's messing me up. But like, some days you just don't feel like doing it anymore, because you've just been doing it so long, and it is demanding of your time, and it's just you're constantly trying to think of like what's next, what's the new thing to do. Like you might try something, it doesn't come out the way you want, and then you get like agitated. Numbers being up and down can like really, that's like the hardest thing I think for most people. Like the ones that are able to kind of not let the analytics mess with them is like rare. But the number, it affects your mood. You're like, all right, I just put all this work into this, I dropped it, okay, it's not really doing as good as I thought it would. Now your day is like kind of ruined. And it's like, all right, you know, you regroup tomorrow. But then if something does better than you expected, now it's like dopamine or whatever, you know, like a rush. You're like, oh man, it's the best day ever. Now, like, you know, you see YouTubers talk about it all the time, like, I got a 1 out of 10 today because your videos are ranked when you drop it. Like, how well is it performing out of your last 10? And, you know, something could start out 10 out of 10, awful, and it could climb to 1 out of 10 because it starts picking up traction. Like the Brady video, that's what happened. It started, it was awful, but after a couple weeks, then it was jumped up. But then some stuff comes out the gate 1 out of 10, which is just like, it's just hits the ground running, and you're like, oh man, it's like, that feels like winning the Super Bowl. You're like, oh man, this is like the whole week's good now just off that, you know? So that's the hard thing. Like the analytics can really get to you, especially in the down part of the year. Like right now, luckily mine's been pretty stable. Last year was bad. Like Madden 21 was bad for everybody, and it was
everybody
was unmotivated and just kind of down. It was like, man, like can't get the views up. And I know really no one knows why. Like things ebb and flow, because Madden 20 was such a high too that in comparison 21 was just awful. Everybody thought, because a lot of us are still new, you know. Even Madden 20 for me, that was like maybe like 2 years, 2.5 years into it, and so I'm just, and all I experienced was up because I'm new. When you're new, it's easy to like, okay, this year was better than last because you're so new. There's a lot more people to reach and growth to be had. So 21 is the first year where it actually came down, and I was like, I've never experienced this before. Like, I'm like, man, is this like the beginning of the end? And you start thinking like, okay, what's the next thing in life? Because maybe this is about to start declining over the next 5 years. But then this year, you know, I got it back up. So it's just, the ups and downs are tough, and it can get to you, and just the burnout, because you're constantly, like when you work for yourself too, it's everything's on your shoulders, you know? Like you can't leave, man. That's like the hardest thing. You can't leave work at work. Your work's at home. Like there's no leave. You can't leave. You cannot leave it. Like I'm at home. It's like if I'm not working, it's like you feel guilty. Or like if you're playing the game just for fun and you're not recording, you're like, you feel guilty because you're like, I'm wasting time. I could be making another video while I'm sitting here. Like I'm in the other room watching TV. I'm like, I could be editing a video right now. And like it's bad because you need a break. Everybody needs a break. But when you work at home, home's usually like, you're like, okay, I'm away from work. Work's in that building that's, 5 miles down the street. I'm at home now. When you work at home, you don't have that, so
that's tough. It's been a unique adjustment for certain, because you're right. It's like you to combat burnout, you have to be okay with taking a day. But with the nature of this, taking a day, I mean, let's call it what it is. It can be so costly, right? You fall out of the algorithm. Any amount of time that you're spending off, you will indeed need to kind of crawl back and climb back from. So if I know that I'm got burnout on the horizon, haven't taken a day off in a week or 10 days or whatever it is, and you just suck it up, I can certainly sympathize with that. Like you're looking at the office like, man, I should have done this, I should have done the other thing. But it seems like you've been really pretty well successful with keeping things moderate, not riding the highs too high or the lows too low, and just kind of keeping yourself steady and level. Would you say that's kind of your specific recipe for success?
Yeah, I think I manage it probably as best as I can. Like I don't want to even like make it out to be like, oh, I struggle. Like I really don't. I'm pretty good. Like I have my down days. I definitely, like my worst days are like, it might be a few days out of the year where it's just like I just have nothing left. I'm like, I just want to go lay on the sofa for today, because I haven't done that in months. And it's like I just can't physically bring myself to record or even think of an idea. Like I have a day like that every so many months where it's like maybe 2, I'm like, I just need to just lay down. Like I don't want to do anything but just lay down. And usually that gets me back going. But I'm trying to find more balance, because I'm like, my life's like 90% work, so I'm trying to find more balance. But one thing I've gotten better with is like knowing that like you don't have to post every day. In fact, it's the opposite now. Like there was a time where you really did kind of have to post every day. Like it was really, or you know, every other day. It was kind of almost required. Like you needed to keep having content out there. And it still is good to do that because like I know if I post today, I'm gonna make more money because there's a new video out, which means there's more. I'm gonna have more views today.
Right.
But the way things have changed over the years, again, when you see some of the people that's raised the bar out there, there's people, you know, they'll post. Mr. Beast might post once a month, and no one's doing more views than him. Which it goes to show you can be away. Your video quality just has to be good. Like when you drop something, it has to be good. So you honestly, he says that all the time. I watch all his interviews. They're like, you'll make more views and more money. Like instead of doing 10 videos in a month, just put all that effort you would have put into those 10 videos and put that into one good video, and it's like you will get more views. And it is true. Like I've probably posted the least amount of videos this year than any year, and I'm getting like really good numbers because some of the ones I'm working on are like they're better videos. So I'm better with that. I don't ever feel like, oh, I have to post today. Even when views get low, I might be 5 days that I didn't post, and I'm like, man, the views are they're just getting lower every day. That's one thing I've gotten over. I'm like, no, because when I come back with a good video, it's gonna pop right back up and everything's gonna be cool. And when the game drops, then that's different. Then that's every day because like for the first 6 weeks, because that's when you're like that window of opportunity is so great when the game's new. So yeah, like that's when like you can definitely get burnt out. That's when I feel like, oh, I can't miss a day. That's when I get stressed, but it's like a good stress because you're excited because the numbers are as high as they're gonna be all year. Everybody's excited. Everybody's playing. It's like you're bouncing in different Twitch streams while you're editing. You're like, man, everybody's just like on their content like A game because it just dropped. So that it's a good stress. Bad stress is when you're like, all right, it's this time of the year and the views are like, it's hard to get views because interest isn't there, and you're like, I just can't wait for August, you know. But I try to keep it balanced. I need to start, you know, trying to exercise more because like little things like that like really do help your mental health, you know. And I've noticed it, but I'm just so locked into work, and like I'm trying to be like, okay, like you don't have to work all day. You can cut it off at like 5 o'clock and, you know, go get a jog in or something like that, you know. So I'm trying to be more balanced with stuff like that because I think it does help for sure.
For sure, and I agree. I think it does, and I think it's I mean, really, all of this has been so valuable. But I think, you know, among the gems that a listener could take from this is just the. I used the phrase before, that this kind of constant state of adapting, adjusting, finding out what's new, finding out what's next. We might have, you know, a given impression of somebody like you with the platform that we've heard firsthand how you've worked for it. You know, the 2 jobs you were working before this became a thing, and then, you know, everything that had to come after that. I think that's so valuable for people to hear because it's easy to put, you know, it's easy to put somebody that you watch a lot on a pedestal, but an opportunity to talk to you like this, you know, we're all living really similar life experiences out here, and I think it's valuable to hear from somebody like you on yours, man. I think, I mean, obviously a natural conversationalist, a super easy interview, man. I mean, holy mackerel. Like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. I've got you we've had 90 minutes on the FendTalk here today. Absolutely unbelievable. But brother, before before we turn the corner and I let you loose for the rest of your day, maybe today's the jog day. Is there anything else that like we didn't get to touch on, or you just kind of wanted to leave the chat with like a parting thought? And again, man, just truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have literal notes next to me. It was valuable for me personally, and I think I could speak for the channel too, and, you know, anybody that watches it in the future, that you know, you sharing this knowledge that has been really hard earned. I appreciate it. It's super valuable to me and to us, so I appreciate it very, very much.
I just appreciate you having me on. It's been a while since I've been able to do one of these, so nice. You know, I have like a lot more knowledge now than I did years ago when I did them. You know, I thought I knew more then, but now it's like I know a lot more, and I'm sure in a couple years I'm gonna know even more. That's like the beauty of it. You never know it all, and like I'm always trying to learn more. I probably spend more time researching other channels than I do making my own videos. Like that's how you get better. You have to study the people that have done better and learned. Yeah. You try to shortcut it, you know, so you don't make maybe some of the same mistakes. So no, yeah, I love, I guess I'm open book. I always give the info to people. It's not a secret. It's just, you just gotta kind of put the work in. Some people,
and I mean,
get lucky,
people need to hear
sure,
it.
But
people need to hear it, bro. You've done a great job with it. You know, you're giving back to the community with everything you're doing, with you making this appearance here, man. And I hope for you nothing but all the continued success. I hope 23 is even better for you than 22 was. You got a bunch of fans in the congregation here. You know, I hope you continue to lead from the front as well as you have been. And thank you so much, my man Eric Rayweather, checking in. FendTalks Season 2, an incredible guest, man. I'll remember this one for a minute. You're a legend.
Hey man, maybe this time next year we run it back. You know, I'm sure you're gonna keep doing it. So, and I do think the future's up just for football gaming in general, because I mean we got 2K's coming out with a game, NCAA next year. Like there's gonna be a lot more, I think, potential content in the future. Like it's not gonna be just be Madden anymore, which I think is great. So I do think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of unknown ahead that could be really good. So
yeah. I think you're absolutely right, man. And I will, I'll pencil it in right now. I would love to circle back with you next year, but especially after NCAA, I'm sure there will be, you know, quite a few things to talk about. And I know I'd love to hear about everything you learn between now and then as well. I'll be hopeful to link back up and we could do this again sometime before too long.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me.
Eric Rayweather, man, truly a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much from me, from my channel, for your time. We'll catch you very soon. Eric Rayweather, a great show indeed. Thank you, bro. Legend.